Speaking of which, the Carney government announcing a delay on the electric vehicle mandate. That's a big part of the announcement from today. By next year, 2026, under the original rules, Canada was supposed to be selling 20% of all new passenger cars had to be electric vehicles. It was a controversial move that was brought in by the Trudeau government to push its environmental strategies. Now Mark Carney is saying the pause button will be hit on that strategy. He says Canada's auto sector is going through enough right now as a result of Donald Trump and his trade war on the car sector, and they have enough to deal with. According to the Automotive Part Manufacturers Association, Flavio Bove, this is good news. Listen to this.
I think this is a good whole-of-government approach to a crisis. I know we find nice words to describe where we are. Our biggest customers said, we don't want your product. And the entire industry is built to deliver products south of the border. And so there's a few things here that are important. Football fans will know the value of a good punt. We punted on the EV mandates at a time when this isn't going to work, but I like the fact that we're going to do a short review. But more importantly, we talked during the campaign and after about how do we get that industry to refocus products on Canadian customers. And so we heard during the campaign the Made in Canada Fund. Now we finally see this as part of this $5 billion strategic investment fund.
All right, for more, let's bring in David Adams. David is the president and CEO of Global Automakers of Canada. David, happy Friday to you. What do you make of what Mark Carney is announcing today on that EV mandate?
Well, thanks for having me, Todd. It's our members are pleased with the announcement that the Prime Minister made. It's something that the association has been advocating for a number of months now. I think it's an issue of the market for electric vehicles being quite different from what was anticipated when the federal government first put the regulation in place 18 months or so ago now. I think it makes sense that we would take the opportunity to recalibrate that mandate if we're going to have one, so that it does reflect what consumers actually want to buy, as opposed to targets that have been arbitrarily set by the federal government.
Yeah, and a review of the EV mandate itself is also going to take place. I mean, just for people at home who may not be aware, because there's a lot of different numbers flying around. It was 20% by next year, and then ultimately 100% within 10 years from now, which may no longer be realistic under the current environment. What do you make of that review, and what would you like to see, David?
Yeah, well, I think we're still awaiting the details of what that review is going to encompass, but I think part of that review, as I said, would be to take a look at, third-party studies of what the latent consumer demand really is for EVs. I think too often surveys are cited where individuals will say, well, yes, my next car is going to be an EV, but they may not appreciate that currently, at least, EVs are more expensive than traditional vehicles. The charging infrastructure across Canada maybe isn't as robust as it should be. So what you say on a survey and what you actually do when you purchase a new vehicle seem to be two different things. So I think there's a real opportunity to do some analytical work that makes sense and that will inform government as well as industry in terms of what's actually possible here. I don't think any of our members would shed a tear if the EV mandate was eliminated altogether, but I think the reality is that was a core plank of the previous government's climate change, environmental policy, as you will. And I think if it is going to stay in place, then it needs to be rationalized and tied in with where consumers are at, because at the end of the day, consumers are going to drive this transition. It's not going to be governments. I guess the other thing I would say is it's fine for the federal government to make this pause and review move, but we really need the two provinces, Quebec and BC, that also have their own mandates that are much more aggressive again than the federal mandate, to hit the pause button and ideally collaborate with the federal government so that at the end of the day we can end up with one mandate if we are going to have one at all.
Yeah, I mean, consumer demand has decreased, David, as you rightly point out. This story is also political. The Conservatives saying the mandate needs to be shelved. They should, let the market decide how it all plays out. Now, I'm just curious, in terms of the industry itself, how committed are they to further, putting, EVs. When you see demand dropping and government mandates start to get paused and/or canceled, what does that mean for the future of, electric vehicles in Canada? What do you think?
Well, what I can say is that our members are fully committed to an electrified future. I think the only challenge that we've ever had with government policy is over what time frame and also what tools is the government using to try and I guess bring that transition about. So I think it does. We do have to focus on the consumer, and the consumer's made it clear that these vehicles are still too expensive, and I think it's appropriate for the government to have a rebate program in place, maybe not forever, but until the costs become a little bit more equalized between traditional gas-powered vehicles and EVs. And then also, the infrastructure needs to be built out as well. But I think our members are fully committed to that electrified future. And I think one of my members, their joint initiative with PowerCo down in St. Thomas to build the $7 billion battery plant, that initiative is moving forward as we speak. So these things, nobody makes decisions lightly about transitioning technology. Usually in the automotive industry, product plans are a decade long in terms of planning. So it's a long-term planning horizon that isn't going to be necessarily shaken by what might happen over a 4-year term of one president.
David, thanks for your time as always.
Thanks for having me.